Hey, Sam.
Hey, Connor, how you doing?
Good. How about this NFL draft?
Boy, how about it? For as our loyal listeners are aware, last week we did a special edition Red Alert live episode, and it went. It was okay.
Yeah, it was fairly it was pretty poor to mediocre, I would say. Neither of us had anything really planned for it, so it was really just a live stream of my laptop or me sitting in the chair and or the floor of my living room.
And the first couple pics of us trying to figure out how to get the live stream to work.
Yeah, and then just friends of mine on my Facebook just coming out of the woodwork to join the live stream. At one point, Darren Olson joined my live stream.
Oh, he did?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm 98% sure that all these people joined just because the notification popped up on their phone and they clicked it on accident.
Yeah, the notification popped up and they said, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah, and then they clicked it. Do you see Cheech's comment?
No, what did he say?
He said, "Are y'all playing Fortnite?"
No, we weren't, Cheech.
Nah, we're not playing Fortnite. Anyway, yeah, we did some live draft coverage, and it was pretty ass, but that's okay. It was a pretty exciting first round, though. I enjoyed it, and I mean the draft itself. I think part of my take had a pretty good, explanation, or not explanation, a quote unquote take, I guess you could say, and it's the first round is just so damn long, and I forget every single year that it's just so how long it really is. It went from 7 until 11 o'clock or something.
Yeah,
10:30.
Well, because it's I 100%. And I think I said this on the live stream last week. Was 100% agreed. 10 minutes is too damn long because you have 10 minutes times 32 teams, 320 minutes divided by 60. It's 5 hours. It's 5 goddamn hours.
Yeah, that's too long. Yeah, and it's just especially with the first pick, it's man, Cardinals know who they're gonna fucking pick, but they just drain the clock.
Yeah, they've been on the clock since December.
Right. So damn. They must know who they're gonna pick. And I mean, largely for those first couple of people, you kind of know who you're gonna pick, but I don't know. Anyway,
the only thing I'll say to that, we can shorten it down, but I'm fine with the teams using the full clock just to, if they're bluffing, trying to coax a trade out of somebody. That's fine. Take your time and do that, but bring it down to 8 minutes. It's gonna make everything go quicker.
Just 5 minutes.
But yeah, other than that, my overall take about the draft is I think it's fun because I think no matter what happens, I'm going to feel better about the team. As a Packers fan, it doesn't matter really what they do, unless they do something crazy like what the Giants did. And that's not even that crazy. But if they do something really off the wall, then it's what the hell? But as long as they just do something that's not, decidedly, on the surface looks bad, I'm going to feel good about it. If they stay and just pick their picks, great, you pick a guy. Don't know anything. Don't know much about him, but boy, he might be good. He might not be, but we'll hope he's good. If you trade down, great, we're getting more picks. If you trade up, we must really like this guy. So either way, you can very easily I can very easily talk myself into liking whatever they do. That was definitely the case this year. Didn't really have any huge issue, but we can get to that more as we go on here.
Yeah, somebody put it in a good term where the only thing less accurate than the mock drafts are the draft grades that come out immediately after the draft is done.
Yes.
Because those things just mean absolutely. I think I saw there was a Yahoo article today that was it was both funny and also really fucking stupid because it was the whole article was, oh, look at how silly some of our draft analysis was, and look at how many of these we also got right though. And it was just this small sample size of this draft from, I think it was 2016 maybe 2016 I think. And I don't know, it's just kind of you look at these picks and it's you gave these bad picks or these bad draft grades to these teams, and then they had a stud or the person that you were glorifying turned out to be ass, and it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, that's how it goes. But it's not like they're gonna go away though, because it's something that you need some immediate gratification after the draft is done, so you can quantify what just happened and feel feelings about your team's draft. So I get it, but yeah, at the same time, it's just kind of like, yep, can kind of just ignore these because these guys literally haven't played at all for these teams yet. So anyway,
the hope springs eternal. You can same thing with free agency. Okay, we got some guys, we got some picks. Do I feel better? Sure, why not?
Right. I guess. So anyway, with that, I mean, like you said, I liked the first round. There weren't very many picks that I thought were like off the wall or just like what the hell. But I thought we could go into some of our picks that we appreciated a little bit more that were outside of the pack. I like the Packers draft a lot, but just want to talk about a couple of picks that I guess I liked outside of the Packers organization. I don't know if you have any, but I know one that I liked in particular was the Jags getting Josh Allen at number 7 overall.
Yep.
Josh Allen, was mocked in the top 3 for quite some time, and it was pretty consensus opinion that he was going to go top 5 probably. And he fell all the way to the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 7 after Tampa Bay took Devin White, Oakland took Cleveland Farrell, and the Giants took Daniel Jones. So it was they got a great outside linebacker / defensive end to replace. I mean, they were in some hot water because they had a pretty fantastic draft a few years ago. So they have a lot of pieces like Yannick Ngakoue that they were, you either got to pay him or you got to let him go in free agency. But now they have a guy here to replace specifically Ngakoue if they do have to let him go. So they have a ton more flexibility with their defense, something that they've been relying on quite a bit to be a successful franchise. And I mean, it's tough to say coming out of a draft and sort of hesitant to make any assumptions here because, like we said, none of these players have played on a team yet, so you have no idea how they're going to perform. But the Jacksonville Jaguars had a fantastic draft. They were able to get some dudes that fell. I mean, just without going too much into it, they were also able to snag Jawan Taylor, which was something unexpected. He fell all the way to the second round.
Oh yeah. We were talking about it live. Like, I couldn't believe that he fell as far as he did.
Yeah. I mean, people were mocking Jawan Taylor to the Jags at number 7.
Yeah, they got him in the second round. Which, yeah, that's wild. They got Gardner Minshew too in the 6th.
Yeah, so they got that guy, I guess, to back up Nick Foles. Right. They got a tight end in the 3rd round, which they needed a tight end, Josh Oliver from San Jose. They got Quincy Williams, linebacker from Murray State. Don't know anything about that guy. But, I mean, just those top couple of guys, Josh Allen, Jawan Taylor, I mean, that was a lot of pieces fell into place for them to land those 2 guys. So, I liked that one in particular. I also liked the trade up by the Eagles to get Andre Dillard.
That was my guy. Yep, Andre Dillard.
Yeah, Andre Dillard. The Eagles traded up right in front of the Houston Texans, who were absolutely going to take Andre Dillard because O-line was something that the Houston Texans needed to shore up in this draft. And the Eagles were able to snag him right in front of them.
Yeah, cut them real good.
Yeah, and this was I was watching a PFF video on this because they were talking about this quite a bit, and it puts them in a pretty interesting position because they're able to get Andre Dillard, who probably isn't going to play right away because they have Lane Taylor and somebody else.
They have Jason Peters.
Jason Peters. Both of those guys. But they're able to take Andre Dillard and then bench him, provide depth for that O-line. Let him learn about what's going on because playing O-line in the NFL is a little bit difficult, a little bit harder going up against some of these D linemen and linebackers that are at the pro level. So you let him sit behind a couple of guys who are pretty talented, pretty stacked offensive line, don't necessarily need to play the rookie right away. And then eventually, as Jason Peters, he was injured quite a bit last year, or just as injuries compound through the season and you need to slot him in, you can play him then and you can get him his reps. He can learn. It's a much more fortunate position than the Texans, who need to draft a person who can play on day one.
Yeah. Andre Dillard, having him coming off the bench, that's got to be one of the better, backup tackle situations in the league. Not being intimately familiar with everybody's roster, and they're going 7-8 deep on their offensive line, but yeah, I think Andre Dillard, having your first round pick, a guy that is pretty highly touted, has a high ceiling here, you'd think. Having him backing up or being able to plug him in at, I would think you'd be able to plug him in at guard if you needed to, if people are getting hurt. But just having him as your kind of utility offensive lineman for a little bit until Jason Repeat, while you still have aging Jason Peters and eventually replace him with Andre Dillard, hopefully. That's definitely working from a position of strength on that Eagles offensive line now, you'd think.
Yeah, and it's something that'll allow them to maintain their level of success with their O-line, because their O-line is just fantastic. So allows them to maintain that level of excellence, nabbing Andre Dillard, one of the top tackle prospects in this draft. So I like that pick quite a bit. So, I don't know. We could go on and on about picks that we really enjoy because, frankly, there were a ton.
Yeah, the only two I'll say are just the Redskins. Everybody was real high on them, and for good reason. Getting Dwayne Haskins, sitting tight, holding on to and waiting for Dwayne Haskins to fall to him at 15, and then getting Montez Sweat, who also fell pretty far, getting him at the end of the first round. Just the top end of that Redskins draft on paper at this point looks pretty good.
Yeah. Who else did they got a running back, right? They got Bryce Love.
Oh yeah, they got Bryce Love. Well, and then they also have the kid from LSU who missed all
Darius Geis.
Yeah, they missed all last season. Get him back.
Yeah.
So if Dwayne Haskins is any good, and you have, I don't know, some dudes that can run the ball, I don't know. Redskins are going to be interesting this year. With a high first round pick playing quarterback, there's obviously attention that's going to get thrown their way for good reason. So yeah, they'll be interesting to see what they look like this year. Yeah,
I definitely have a little bit more optimism for them than going into last year even. But we'll see. Any picks that you didn't like in particular?
Well, Daniel Jones is obviously the one that comes to mind.
Yeah,
I think that was a reach getting him there. The Packers first round trading back or moving up in the first round from 30 up to 21. I didn't mind them, doing that. It just seemed like I didn't love that they gave away both their fourth round picks and that 30th pick just to move up 9 spots. It seemed a little aggressive, but I don't love it, but it's fine. Obviously, it works. Okay. I feel a lot better about it if Darnell Savage turns out to be a player, which hopefully he would be. He's fast. So don't have an issue with the pick, but I didn't love the value coming out of the trade.
Gotcha. I had Daniel Jones as well. But, I don't really want to beat a dead horse on it because it's kind of like, on one hand, you got to take your quarterback where you got to take your quarterback, I guess, but it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, value is in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
So if he's their guy, he's their guy, and I mean, obviously time will tell. I mean, Donovan McNabb got booed when he got drafted back in the day, and he turned out to be, I don't know, he was a solid NFL quarterback for a while.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Right.
I wouldn't have done it.
No, but I mean, yeah, you got to take your guy where you have your guy on your board. So whatever. Pick that was pointed out to me that I didn't like very much was Chicago trading up to get David Montgomery. They traded with the New England Patriots to go up and get David Montgomery.
In the third round.
Yep.
That's their first pick of the draft.
Yep. So I don't know. They needed a guy that was going to be the bruiser, early down back because Tariq Cohen is not that person. Tariq Cohen's very little. However, with people like Damian Harris still on the board, who the New England Patriots actually ended up getting at that traded back pick from Alabama, I mean there is value still there on the table, and they did a similar thing that the Packers did where they forfeited fourth round pick, which when you're the Bears and you don't have any early round picks and you got to find the value in those later rounds. I'm not sure that was worth the cost benefit analysis there. Especially when you're a team that's built off of players that you've been able to establish from those middle rounds. People like Eddie Jackson came out of the fourth round.
Tariq Cohen was a later pick.
Yeah.
Anthony Miller.
I think Adrian Amos was actually as well.
Probably.
And Bryce Callahan
yeah.
was an undrafted free agent. So, a team that prides itself on being able to find those later round gems, it was surprising to see them give up their fourth round pick just to move up and take a guy when there was another option that was clearly still going to be there later on.
Yeah, especially to move up and give up for running back, where it's a position where you can really get serviceable players, generally pretty deep in the draft. Every once in a while, like Zeke Elliott or Saquon Barkley, Jesus.
Yeah.
The generational guys, but I mean beyond that, you can get serviceable NFL players deep. I mean, again, if you want to move up and get your guy, if he's your guy, I mean, fine. But I think at that point in the draft, I'd be, at the running back position especially, just looking to sit tight and, you get what you get.
And in this draft in particular, there were a ton of guys like that who were just running backs that they were mocked to those middle rounds. Like there was Josh Jacobs, and then everybody else was below in those middle rounds. So it was there were a ton of people that went later on in the draft that, I don't know, like Benny Snell from Kentucky, he went in the fourth round. Bryce Love in the fourth round. I mean, there were people there, and I don't know. I'm not sure. A lot of running backs that you could have gotten at later rounds there. So, like you said, I'm not sure that trading up was the best move there, but we'll see. Maybe he'll be really good.
Maybe he's Barry Sanders. I don't know.
Right, who's to say? Like,
we'll see once he actually plays some football.
Right, exactly. Kareem Hunt was taken in the third round from, I think, the third round. So,
where was Aaron Jones? Where was he taken?
I think he was in the third round, or fourth round, maybe.
What about
Jamal Williams was taken before him.
Oh, well, all right, yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. You can get dudes that can carry the ball that are that you can get NFL players late in the draft, especially at running back, that are at least somewhat productive.
Right.
Good. Yeah. Oh man, I watched some highlights of this old Lions game the other day. Not to brag, but
nice, man.
They had Mikel LaShore. I was like, oh, I remember him. He was a guy that I think he went to Illinois. Yeah, he was a serviceable NFL player for a little bit.
That's probably one of my favorite parts about watching some of these older games from, 6-7 years ago, you see some names like particularly at the running back position, because that position just it rotates so many players through it that it's you goes, oh yeah, I remember that guy, or oh yeah, Orleans Darkwa.
Oh, David Wilson, yeah, him.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny to go back and look at those games and see some of the names.
DeMarco Murray, oh yeah. I remember when he had that one year with the Cowboys.
Oh yeah,
Ryan Matthews, yeah.
Oh, Ryan Matthews, man.
Oh, Michael Turner, yeah, him.
Some names. Anyway, all right. So I think we're gonna give a brief rundown here of the Packers picks here, and then give some takeaways that we have from the draft or the Packers draft. Just kind of walk through the picks here in the 2019 draft class. So it started off with a boom. Packers drafted Rashawn Gary with the 12th overall pick. So immediate reaction to this pick was a very polarizing one, and one that, frankly, I mean, it was as soon as his name was called out, I knew that there were going to be people who were hating this pick and people who were uncertain about it, and I myself was pretty uncertain about it when it first happened, but as I've been able to read some more about Rashawn Gary, watch some more analysis videos, it's definitely a pick that I've become a lot more comfortable with. So while Rashawn Gary has, very real concerns, some of them being just lack of effort on some reps. There's a labrum injury that he's nursing right now that they're not quite sure what the timetable is for. There was a lack of statistical production on his part. There was, concerns about him getting bullied by collegiate tackles. Very real stuff, but overall, looking at some of the tape analysis and some of the news on Rashawn Gary, it seems the consensus was that where he operated in Michigan's defensive scheme, his main role was really to disrupt what was going on the other side of the ball and to be a problem for the offensive coordinator for the other team. Using his athleticism, he was able to operate out of various parts of the defensive line, which caused a problem with people that were trying to counter what he was doing. So while he wasn't necessarily statistically productive in a lot of these games, he opened up opportunities for people on that Michigan defense, namely Devin Bush and Chase Winovich, who were hallmark players on that defense who ended up being drafted pretty early on as well. That was kind of the main takeaway that I had from him, and because he was that kind of a player on the team, it made sense that the Packers took him at number 12, being that they were able to acquire Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith in free agency, a couple of edge guys who functioned as complementary players in their own defenses, while also operating on a defensive line that included players like Kenny Clark, Mike Daniels, Muhammad Wilkerson, hopefully. Having all of those players in there, it sort of mitigates some of the consequences of drafting a person like Rashawn Gary, who might not be very polished coming out of college, but he doesn't need to be very polished coming out of college. His high ceiling, I think, is really, and the versatility on the defense is really why the Packers drafted him, because he can plug into the defense at these various spots, but he doesn't need to be the guy that's plugged into that defense right away for the defense in order for the defense to function.
Yeah, and if he can come in and just eat up blocks, or because they tested at the combine and the athleticism's there. Obviously, he ran I don't remember what his 40 time was, but he tested well, and so he's definitely an athletic guy. So if you can just come in and occupy blockers and open up opportunities for these, the Smiths that you just mentioned. I don't know. You see more from Kyler Fackrell, who had a breakout season. That's fine and good. That someone does that, or if it's the other way around, that's great too. I mean, yeah, the effort thing, I don't know. I didn't watch a whole lot of tape. That's all just things I've heard. So, if that's a concern, I mean, we'll see about that. The injury is obviously another thing that'll take some time here to evaluate and determine how much of a factor that is. And with those two things in mind, and with all the depth you have at pass rush now, a lot of guys you have there, I'm going to go into this with tempered expectations. Obviously we always want, like last year with Jair Alexander, your first pick, he showed up and played, was an impact player right away, which is great. That's exciting. I wouldn't be surprised here if Rashan Gary takes a year or two to A, get healthy, and B, get snaps, get time on the defense, and then before we start seeing him making a big impact. Obviously, the sooner the better, but not getting production in college, it's a little bit of a red flag, but I don't know. He played on a good defense with a lot of other good players, so there's only so many sacks to go around. Other people are going to get there and take care of that stuff, and it's just sacks are just one, or not the be all end all, determination of whether you're a good pass rusher or not. Like you were saying, opening up opportunities for guys like Devin Bush, Chase Winovich, certainly might have been the case. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Athletic. Someone who's very athletic. Hopefully, he can live up to the athletic potential.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I think you had it right here. Temporary expectations in the first year. But overall, great pick, providing depth for the pass rush and defensive line overall. So, moving on, the Packers traded up to the 21st overall pick to draft Darnell Savage, safety from Maryland. While I agree that selling the fourth round picks here is it's a tough asking price. I really like that the Packers were able to nab him in the first round. He, I think, provides an excellent complement to their free agent signing Adrian Amos, safety from the Bears. What I like about it is that they sort of operate in different roles, but they can also transition back and forth between being a free safety and a strong safety. So while Darnell Savage has the speed, he ran a 4.36 40, extremely fast, so he can be that rangy Eddie Jackson free safety, playing over the top. He was also an excellent tackler, though, and had a lot of power behind. Even though he has a smaller frame, he can still tackle very efficiently, so he can play as a box safety. And that's something that he can trade off with Adrian Amos, he's obviously a great safety, proved that playing with Chicago. He's also similar to Rashan Gary. He can play at various spots on the defense. He can line up on the line of scrimmage. He can play, like I said, box safety. He can play over the top. So being in this Mike Pettin defense, I think he's an extremely valuable piece. Having him there to do so many different things, I think I'm really glad that we were able to nab him, because that safety position has been something that the Packers have just not been able to shore up these last few seasons, and it's been extremely frustrating to watch people like Ibrahim Campbell and Raven Green line up back there. Kentrell Bryce, like these dudes that just like we're not getting it done. It's no fault really on their own, because all of these guys were basically 7th round picks or undrafted free agents, but it's nice to see the safety position being this tandem of really excellent playmakers. So, they spent some draft capital to move up, but I feel much more confident in the defense after this pick.
Yes. Them moving up, like I said, we've talked about this, don't love it, but if they're going to move up and get a safety, that'd be the position to spend on after getting another pass rusher. Like the speed is exciting. That ability, and hopefully that movable chest speed, if you can come down and be a slot corner as needed, matching up with guys in slot, that's very valuable, especially in 2019 here, with the offensive using slot receivers and some of those quicker guys. I think I saw a quote ascribed to Darnell Savage here that to your point about being able to come down and lay the wood in the box if needed. Something to the effect of that, first time he played football, he just wanted to hit people. So not being afraid of contact, that's obviously good if you're playing defense. I don't know. Yeah, so I'm fine with this. Also great. It's a great name.
Yeah, excellent name. Darnell Savage, man.
Well, and what did you say? If you really hope he gets numbers came out.
He didn't. He got number 26.
Oh, he's not. He doesn't get 21 Savage.
No. So
well, he's picked 21.
Yeah, he's picked 21 Savage. So it was close, but that's okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just overall much more excited about this defense going into the season, just because there's so many playmakers now. There's rookies from last year. We got Josh Jackson, Jair Alexander, Kevin King still to work with in playing cornerback. We got Darnell Savage now, Adrian Amos. The secondary just looks totally different. This D-line just got way better. There's a ton of stuff, and a lot of this is early season optimism playing, having a bias effect on me, but it's it looks a lot brighter than it did at the outset of last year, going into the 2018 season, where there were questions about linebacker and Clay Matthews, Nick Perry, these guys that we drafted at corner, what's happening with them. The safety position, we got Tramon Williams maybe moving to safety. So yeah, I'm way more excited about watching this Packers defense than I have been in at least a couple of seasons here. Anyway, so moving on here.
Oh, and just to put a oh damn it, put
exclamation
point on that. I was trying to find the Packers roster from last year. And just look to see what that secondary or the defense really, what they look like here. So your defensive starters, Mike Daniels, he's back. Dean Lowry's still there. Kenny Clark. So that's all pretty much the same. Blake Martinez, your big tackling machine in the middle, still there. Clay Matthews gone. Antonio Morrison hopefully gone. Hopefully we have a different starting interior linebacker.
I'm pretty sure he got cut.
Yeah, okay. Nick Perry. So you got two new guys out there. Kentrell Bryce and Tramon Williams starting at safety.
Yikes.
Nope. Josh Jackson and Jair Alexander. So yeah, noticeably different with these couple draft picks here and the free agent signing. So should be good. Should be better.
Yeah, man, looking forward to it. Like having Jair Alexander, who played great, Josh Jackson, who hopefully is going to be able to cover the big body receivers. Like that is the one thing that I hope he's developed, because watching Julio burn Ladarius Gunter on that NFC Championship game was just like an image that has been burned into my mind. Like, it will never go away. The fact that the Packers had to use him to cover Julio Jones. Like, one of those things where it's like, man, how'd we end up here? Like, freeze frame. Bet you're wondering how I got here. Covering Julio Jones after I ran a 4.8 or whatever. Not a 4.8, but...
Yeah, Ladarius Gunter's still unsigned.
Yeah, played in the AAF, I think, for a minute.
Yep, before that got canceled, but he is still looking for a job. Yeah, run a 4.6240.
Yeah, so not Julio, but anyway. So moving on, Packers made some additions to the offense here. Elgton, is that how you pronounce it?
Sure, Elgton.
All right, Elgton Jenkins played at Mississippi State. He's a center. So picked him at a 12th in the second round here. I like this pick just because the Packers, it's been something that, it's O-line depth in particular has been something that the Packers have struggled with the last couple of years, and something that they used to not struggle with so much when they had their offensive power line that consisted of Josh Sitton, T.J. Lang, Corey Linsley, or
Jeff
Jason
Saturday.
Treader, Jeff Saturday. Yeah, so it's nice to see the Packers. I mean, they were able to pick up Billy Turner from the Denver Broncos as a depth personnel guy as well. But seeing a guy like this who can play guard also, can play on the interior there, I think is extremely valuable. So having him and also Cole Madison coming back from their previous draft, he took last year off to attend to personal issues, but having him back provides even more depth to that offensive line. It makes me feel a lot better about the position because having Byron Bell out there, man, like drove me nuts.
Yeah. I mean, as much as thought Byron Ball, he's a guy. He was on the Cowboys. Had heard of him. It wasn't good.
No, not good.
I did say okay, but with that when they moved back up to 21, I was fine with them taking safety. I also would have been fine if they would have taken because Andre Dillard went the next pick to Philadelphia. We talked about that would have been great too to get a tackle at the end of the first round there.
Yeah.
And just because of the versatility, I mean, even if it doesn't work out at tackle, we've seen it before. There's a number of different players that maybe aren't great at tackle, but you can still move them inside, and they're usually going to be pretty serviceable guards at that point.
Right.
But hey, any offensive line, you get some more people in there. That's always good. Because I really don't feel great with the depth the Packers have on the offensive line behind the starters, with guys like Lucas Patrick or Colin Day.
Unfortunately, Jason Spriggs hasn't developed into the player that we intended him to be.
Yeah, he was a second-round pick a few years back, and really hasn't really done anything that made me go, yeah, he's good.
He's a guy.
He's somebody.
Yeah, he's fallen down the depth chart here, and with these recent signings,
I thought he was going to be
that
chopping block at the training camp last year. I thought he was fighting for a job. This year for sure, I would think.
Yeah, so many more people added to this roster now, but we'll see. This pick, I think this Jace Sternberger pick though is, I like it more and more. I had no idea who this guy was before the Packers took him. And so they took Jace Sternberger, tight end from Texas A&M, in the third round, 11th there. The more I read about him, though, it's like, man, I'm glad that they were able to wait until the third round to take a guy like him because, it was – I think when we talked about the Packers draft in anticipation of it, I'm pretty sure I said that I'd be okay if the Packers were able to take – a tight end there in the first round. T.J. Hawkinson or Noah Fant, who were both getting mocked in the first round, and both who went in the first round. Having somebody, though, like Jace Sternberger, it left in the third round still. He looks like he can play that slot receiver role. The tight end, he's an excellent receiver. He can really stretch the field. He's pretty fast and big-bodied. I think his blocking is not the best, but
that
was something.
That's what
Mercedes
Lewis is for.
You're right, exactly. So we got him, so he can do that. But I'm glad that we got somebody because it was very clear throughout the season that Jimmy Graham. He was never necessarily the stretch the field kind of guy, but he wasn't even the red zone threat that he was kind of intended to be. So it's nice to see them pick up a guy, and while it kind of like Rashawn Gary, I don't know what his impact is going to be this first season, but just having the opportunity to play alongside a couple of guys who have had extremely successful tight end careers, both Jimmy Graham and Mercedes Lewis, and both in different respects as well. Mercedes Lewis being known for his excellent blocking, Jimmy Graham being known for being an excellent receiver. Having the opportunity to sort of be mentored by both of them, I think is great for a guy like this in the third round. So more I read about it, the happier I am that they were able to land him there in the third round.
Yeah, I would think he's going to get playing time, though, because as much as I was excited to see Mercedes Lewis last year, it was very easy to miss him.
I felt like I didn't see him.
Well, because anytime he was out there, he was almost exclusively blocking. I think he had only a handful of catches last year. So if you want to use him as run a 2 tight end set with 2 guys that you at least pretend that you're going to throw the ball to, out of that set. Yeah, this is a guy you probably plug in and do that. I would think he'd be an upgrade over Robert Tonyan, who saw some. I think he was an undrafted player.
Yeah,
you saw some time on the roster, had a big touchdown catch against the Seahawks last year. You'd think this would be an upgrade over him, which is great, unless you're Robert Tonyan. But
right.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about this whole offense, and I'm fine with them not really they got him, they got the offensive lineman, and they got the running back coming up here. Not any really big splash players, nothing too crazy, and then also nothing really too noteworthy in the offseason with free agency acquisitions. But I'm trusting that Matt LaFleur, by running a little bit more of a modern offense, is gonna this offense is gonna look a lot different, hopefully, and using the existing players they got, I trust that we're going to be able to see something a little more exciting on offense this year. So I had, in a macro perspective, being a little top heavy on defense, both in free agency and in the draft, was A-okay with me.
Yeah, and I guess we'll get to some more of that right after we cover some of these last couple of dudes here. But I agree. So moving on to this guy, Kingsley Keke, defensive lineman from Texas A&M also. Packers. So the Packers didn't have any 4th-round picks. So this guy was drafted in the 5th round. I haven't read a whole lot on this guy, but apparently he was pretty talented at Texas A&M. Just providing more depth on the defensive line. I think it's excellent. Just having another guy there because, we've seen people like Dean Lowry get playing time quite a bit. Last year, he seems to be coming into games fairly, not infrequently, but, he's there quite a bit, I'd say. So just having a guy that we take in the 5th round, I think that's fine. Guy that can be there as a rotational player certainly doesn't hurt.
Nope.
Took Kadar Holman, cornerback Toledo, in the 6th round. Yeah, I don't know.
Got to play special
at the cornerback position. Yeah, right. Special teams, depth. That's what these last rounds are about. Dexter Williams, Notre Dame running back, took him in the 6th round as well. I like this just because, taking a guy kind of on a flyer here in the later rounds, just providing competition there in the running back room. It's pretty obvious that Aaron Jones is the guy, and Jamal Williams will hopefully back him up. But just being able to provide some competition there for that backup role, I think, is healthy.
Yep. Yeah, can't complain about. Especially these running backs. Later this is a good place to take them, especially when you don't have a desperate need for one at the end of the round or end of the draft. And who knows? Maybe you got something there. Again,
right.
Special teams. That's where that's where he's going to make the roster.
And that was the same thing with this last guy, Ty Summers, linebacker from TCU. I'm pretty sure that all the analysis that I was able to read on him, what little of it I was able to read on it, is I don't know, linebacker, special teams. You go.
You're covering punts, covering
exactly.
punts and kickoffs.
Yep,
that's your job.
Let me see your war face. So takeaways from this draft as a whole. So a lot of people had the Packers taking a wide receiver. There were a lot of wide receivers that ended up falling out of the 1st round. And excuse me. And so it was kind of surprising to see some people, particularly DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, Ole Miss wide receivers, fell out. So the Packers ended up not taking any wide receivers. At the time, it felt a little surprising that they weren't going to, but it was something that I certainly ended up liking a little bit more in the days that followed the draft. With the Packers having so many draft picks invested in last year, with wide receivers. People like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Equanimeous St. Brown, Jamon Moore. There's three people right there that it's tough to say where they're at now, given, and I guess not necessarily right now because offseason just kind of started, but having the confidence that those guys are going to develop into serviceable wide receivers on the depth chart after losing Randall Cobb, not knowing if Geronimo Allison is going to still be that number 2 guy next to Devontae Adams. You're putting a lot of confidence in these guys that haven't necessarily proven themselves on the field consistently, but I ended up liking it a little bit more as I moved on and analyzed some of these picks. I think you're correct in saying that the Packers used this draft to shore up their defense much more than their offense. And I think that's something that I mean, we'll see how it goes, of course, but I think it was the right move for this draft.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be this Patton's second or third year?
His second, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Last year was his first year. Yeah. So, year 2 here, bringing in the second year in the scheme for all these guys is good, and getting some playmakers. And just to say it again, I mean, I'm really excited to see what Matt LaFleur's going to do to make this offense look like a modern offense. So I think that'll help a lot of the things. In year 2 for MVS and Equanimeous St. Brown. Obviously, going to have to pick up make some more plays, be better. MVS was he was productive last year in spurts, but going to have to be more consistent with the loss of Randall Cobb, like you just mentioned. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with how they went about this offseason here so far.
Yeah, it'll look a lot different, which is something that I mean is kind of crazy just to on both sides of the ball. I mean, like, notable names are not going to be there, and it's going to be pretty weird at first, but I'm glad that so far with this transition to a new coach, things have looked positive, and things have looked like there's a plan in place to really work this team into a different animal. So yeah, we'll see again as the offseason progresses here. Anything can happen. I mean, just today, I think I saw a news report that Isaiah Crowell tore his Achilles.
Yep.
And I mean, shit like that will just change the entire outlook of what a team is going to do, just like that. So, I mean, just like that, the Raiders, I don't know if they still have Doug Martin on their roster, but you got to think that Josh Jacobs is going to be playing a much more primary role now rather than sitting behind somebody like Isaiah Crowell for first bit of the season there. So, We'll see as we get closer, but so far I'm very optimistic about the 2019 season coming away from this draft.
Yes, and I would have said the same thing last year. Felt better now than I did before. But yeah, I love the draft because I always feel better about the team.
Yeah. Always makes you feel good after it. All the teams look like they're like ready to go too. Like, there aren't a whole lot of teams where it's like, nah, I don't know.
Well,
like the Giants were that team this year.
Dolphins.
But yeah. Woof. Sorry, Dolphins.
Dolphins. That's let's see if Josh Rosen's any good, and if not, we'll just get Tua or Justin Herbert.
Kinda.
And Josh Rosen will do it again. We'll send you somewhere else.
Back to the brig with you. Yeah, kind
of.
That'd
be really fun if Josh Rosen just is on a new team every year. He just kind of bounces around to these bottom feeder teams, and they end up with the number 1 pick again, and then eventually he gets traded to New England after Tom Brady retires, and then he's great.
We got Josh Rosen coming to the team. Uh-oh. The kiss of death. Yeah, poor Dolphins. Unfortunate that. Well, kind of fortunate, maybe, I guess, because at first it was the plan was to start Ryan Fitzpatrick, and that surely meant that you were going to initiate Fitztragic right away because he wasn't coming from his natural hiding place of the backup role to unleash, his hellstorm on the NFL. So I'm excited to have him play that backup role and to hopefully come in when Josh Rosen is playing awful and to just light up the Miami offense
and beat the Patriots at home
and then throw 5 interceptions the next game
and lose to the Bills.
Yeah, man. Like the Ryan Fitzpatrick, like the more I look back on the last year's Buccaneers, like how the season went, it's like, Jesus, like the Packers were pretty bad and obviously fired our head coach. But like, man, I can't imagine what it was like to be like a Tampa fan. Just like, who's our quarterback? I don't know. It might be
having 2 quarterbacks that were like in the top 5 or something in interceptions on the same team.
Yeah, right. Like, oh my God. Like, what is even our team? Like, you guys can go out there and like blow like just real easy for some reason. Get get a smooth 40 points on like some pretty daunting NFL defenses, and then the next game just throw like 7 interceptions between the two of them.
Gosh.
And lose to Miami or whatever.
Ryan Fitzpatrick went 6-10 with the Bills in 2011 threw for 3,800 yards, 24 touchdowns, 23 picks. He only threw 12 last year.
Oh, well, he wasn't playing all that time.
No, he only started 8 games, or he started 7 games. Went 2-5.
So,
but man, those 2 wins were awesome.
That was, man, watching that start to the season was just like, oh my God.
Remember when they beat the Saints?
Yeah.
Week 1. That was awesome.
Their offense looked just absolute, like it was literally like their offense literally did a line and just went out there and whoops.
Beat one of the best teams of the year, a team that might have won the Super Bowl.
Right, team that very well,
coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Right, that whole thing. Pretty fucking crazy. But anyway, that is the draft. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
Well, I was looking at the Packers undrafted free agents, and I was like, ooh, is there any good names in here? And there's only one. And it was Manny Wilkins, who was the quarterback at Arizona State. So,
oh, nice. We gotta get our Joe Callahan pick of the draft. Our what's his name? The Saints guy.
Oh, Taysom Hill.
Yeah, gotta get him.
Well, and there's also somebody from, oh gosh, it was some school. What is it? Southwestern Assembly of God College or something like that.
What?
Yeah, right. I know.
That's a March Madness school name.
Not even. Oh, pull it up here. Manny Wilkins. Yeah, C.J. Collins, Southwestern Assemblies of God University.
That's some East-West Bowl.
The other guys we have here. Cabion Ento from Colorado. I think I had heard of him. Wide receiver.
Okay.
Maybe not, but also Matt Eaton from Iowa State, wide receiver. That name sounds familiar.
You think of Jacob Eason, quarterback?
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of, but he has a similar last name. So, and then also quarterback Taylor Cornelius from Oklahoma State. He was the guy that backed up Mason Rudolph for a little while.
There we go. We got our quarterback room.
Well, yep, that's there you go. Aaron Rodgers is replaceable.
System quarterback.
That's why the system got fired. System wasn't good anymore.
wasn't working. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting looking at all these names. I mean, we both kind of do this exercise from time to time where we go onto the Wikipedia page of previous drafts and just sort of go. And I don't want to do that right now because we're just going to go down a hole if we do. And but we from time to time, again, you know, we go back and look at some of these old drafts and looking at some of these people that were picked and like who got picked ahead of who, and you know, looking back at it's an interesting exercise just to confirm that no matter how much research you do on the lead up to this, it's just like you can't predict everything. And some of these guys in these later rounds end up being real studs in the NFL. And some of these first rounders that you look at, it's like, who is even that guy?
Yeah, like, man, remember when the Browns took Justin Gilbert ahead of Odell Beckham and Aaron Donald?
Yeah, like, that's exactly it. I mean, yeah, you look at stuff like that, or, you know, Corey Coleman. So, I mean, it's an interesting exercise and one that, I mean, I'll be interested in looking at over the next year or so with this draft, just looking at the people that were taken, particularly with just like some of this hype around these people. It's an interesting, with the way the media works and how this whole lead up to the draft has become such a spectacle with social media and the events that the NFL has. It's very interesting to see how some of these players really blow up and get a ton of publicity and end up getting taken where they get taken, but, you know, not necessarily due to anything that they did, just because they're a name that was thrown around by quote unquote analysts or scouts.
Yeah.
So nothing new though. I mean, it's been a thing that's been going on for a while. So not new, but still interesting to look at nonetheless. So anyway, do you have any closing remarks here?
I do not. I think that's gonna do it.
Hell yeah. Well, all right. Thanks for tuning in again. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Check out our Teespring store.
Definitely check out the Patreon.
Definitely check out the Patreon. Hopefully we'll be able to start rolling out some new innovative stuff here in the next couple weeks. You know, my schedule's gotten a lot freer from taking the LSAT. We're gonna start playing in Packers drumline stuff, so hopefully we'll be able to get some of that nice raw footage that you're all dying to see.
Yeah, we know we've been hearing you, and we've been asking for it for a while. It's every YouTube video. Hey, I know people, you've been asking for this. Sorry I haven't posted in a while.
And we're listening.
Yeah.
So anyway, yep, we're excited to roll out some of that stuff here in the next couple of months. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.
Bye.